Today, we dive into 3 chilling horror stories that began with seemingly minor glitches. One father, Mark, faces an unthinkable moment when his blue coffee mug vanishes, and he sees a tall, unnaturally thin figure standing over his son Ben's crib, a shape his wife Clara terrifyingly cannot see. Meanwhile, Paul is tormented by a mistakenly delivered immovable wooden chair that types a cryptic message, "I missed you, Paulie." Finally, the sudden appearance of a 4th pumpkin, followed by a mud-stained child's handprint and a dry, whispered name, proves that some entities don't need to break down doors. They're already inside the house. It started with a coffee mug. It was a Tuesday in late October, exactly a week before Halloween. The air had that crisp, leafy smell, and the light felt thin and yellow. I was rinsing my favorite mug, the blue one with a small chip on the handle, when the doorbell rang. I set the wet mug on the counter, went to the door, and found a package for my neighbor. I took it, closed the door, and when I turned back to the kitchen, the mug was gone. Not fallen, not broken on the floor, just gone. The spot on the counter where I'd left it was completely dry. I checked the sink, the dishwasher, the cabinets. I even, feeling foolish, looked in the microwave. Nothing. I chalked it up to a brain glitch. I'd been tired, working too much. I must have put it away without thinking. It was the only explanation that didn't sound insane. 2 days later, I was working from home. My desk faces a wall, but to my left is a hallway leading to the front door. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my son's red ball roll slowly out of the hallway and come to a stop in the middle of the living room floor. My heart did a little stutter. My son, Ben, was at daycare. He'd been gone for hours. I got up and picked up the ball. It was cool to the touch. I put it back in his toy chest, telling myself it must have been stuck somewhere and simply dislodged. An uneven floorboard, a draft. Old houses settle. That night, I was reading in bed when I heard a faint, rhythmic creak from the hallway. It was the sound of someone taking a slow, careful step, then another, on the board that always complains just outside Ben's room. I held my breath, my book frozen in my hands. The sound stopped. I called out, "Hello?" My voice was tight. Silence answered. I grabbed my baseball bat from the closet and did a sweep of the house. Every room was empty, every door locked. I told myself it was the furnace kicking on, the house cooling down. I almost believed it. The next anomaly was the smell. On Saturday, I was building a Lego tower with Ben when a wave of cheap perfume washed over me. It was cloying and sweet, like something from a drugstore. It was gone in seconds. Ben didn't react. When my wife, Clara, got home from the store, I asked her if she'd sprayed anything. She gave me a funny look and said no. That's when the rationalizations began to feel thin. A lost mug is one thing. A rolling ball, a house noise, those are staples of old home ownership. But a smell that appears and vanishes for no reason? That felt targeted, personal. On Sunday, I was alone, paying bills at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. Then, from the baby monitor on the counter, I heard a voice. It wasn't a ghostly whisper or a demonic growl. It was my voice. Clear as day, I heard myself say, "In the downstairs closet." I snatched up the monitor. Ben was napping at his grandma's. The room on the screen was empty, his crib a silent, tidy island. My blood went cold. I had never said those words. Or had I? Maybe I'd muttered something earlier, and the monitor had a delay. I spent an hour online trying to find reports of baby monitors picking up other signals or having audio glitches. I found nothing that fit. I stopped telling Clara about the things happening. Her concerned looks were starting to harden into something closer to impatience. I could see the word stress forming in her eyes. The climax was so simple, so bare, it felt like a slap. It was Monday night. Halloween was in 2 days. Ben was in bed and Clara was reading on the sofa. I was in the armchair, scrolling through my phone, trying to act normal. The baby monitor, which we now kept in our bedroom with the sound off, was on the coffee table. I happened to glance at it. The screen showed Ben's room lit by the soft glow of his nightlight. He was sleeping, his back to the camera, a small lump under the blanket. Then I saw it. There was a figure standing beside his crib. It was tall and unnaturally thin, a man-shaped cutout of deeper shadow in the already dim room. It wasn't moving. It was just standing there, looking down at my son. My breath caught in my throat. I looked up from the monitor, through the doorway, down the hall toward Ben's room. The hall was dark, quiet. I looked back at the screen. The figure was still there. "Clara," I whispered, my voice cracking. She looked up from her book. "What?" I just pointed a trembling finger at the monitor. She leaned over, looked at the screen, and frowned. "What?" "He's fine. He's asleep." My heart was hammering against my ribs. "Don't you see it?" I hissed. "Next to the crib." She looked again, her face a mask of confusion. "See what?" "There's nothing there, Mark. It's just an empty room." I snatched the monitor and thrust it toward her. "Right there, the dark shape. How can you not see it?" She took the monitor, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm, not at the screen, but at me. "Honey, there's nothing there. It's just Ben. You're scaring me." I stood up so fast the chair rocked back. I didn't grab a bat or a knife, I just ran. I ran down the hall and threw open Ben's door, ready to scream, ready to fight whatever was defiling his room. The room was warm and still. The nightlight cast a soft orange glow. Ben was sleeping peacefully, his chest rising and falling. There was no one else there. The space beside the crib was empty. I checked the closet under the bed. Nothing. The room was exactly as it should be. I stood there, my adrenaline ebbing, leaving me cold and hollow. I had seen it. I had seen it as clearly as I saw my own son. I walked back to the living room, my legs weak. Clara was standing, her arms crossed tightly. "What is going on with you?" she asked, her voice low and worried. I just shook my head. I had no answer that wouldn't sound like madness. We never found anything, no evidence, no forced entry, no explanation. The occurrences stopped after that night. The mug never reappeared. The house was just a house again. But something broke in me. The terror didn't fade into a funny story. It curdled into a deep, settled dread. The mystery wasn't what was in the house. The mystery was in my own head. Did I see a monster on the monitor, or did my mind, stressed and tired, create one from the shadows? The question is its own kind of haunting. The story should end there, with that unease. But it doesn't. This is the part that glues me to the memory, the part that keeps me up sometimes. Last week, I was putting away Ben's laundry. I opened his bottom drawer, the one for his pajamas, and there it was. Nestled between his footy pajamas and his little cotton tops was my blue mug. It was clean and dry, the chip in the handle faced up like it was waiting for me. I didn't touch it. I just closed the drawer and walked away. The truly chilling thing, the thought that detonates in the quiet of the night, isn't that something could move my mug. It's the possibility that it was there all along, placed there by my own distracted hands days before any of it started, and I simply hadn't remembered. I'll never know which truth is worse. The trouble began with a delivery mix-up, just a stupid everyday annoyance. I'd ordered one of those ergonomic mesh office chairs online. What arrived was this thing. It was a heavy, old-fashioned wooden chair with a high back and dark, carved arms. It looked like something from a dusty antique shop. I was annoyed but not alarmed. It was late October, work was piling up, and this was just one more thing to deal with. I called customer service. They were polite, confused, and promised to arrange a pickup. They assured me the correct chair would be on its way. I sighed, pushed the heavy wooden chair into the corner of my home office, and got back to work. The next day, my real chair arrived. The delivery guy who dropped it off had no paperwork for a pickup. "Sorry, mate," he said. "Just the one drop-off on my list." I emailed customer service again. This time, the reply was different. It was short and formal. "Dear Paul, our records show your correct order was delivered successfully on October 22nd. We have no record of any other item being shipped to your address. We consider this matter closed." I stared at the email. Then I looked at the chair, still squatting in the corner. It was a mistake, a weird, frustrating logistical error. They'd sort it out eventually. In the meantime, I had a project deadline. I left the chair right where it was. That night, I was working late. My wife, Anna, was on a late shift at the hospital. The house was silent except for my typing. Around midnight, I heard a sound from the other side of the room. A faint, sharp creak, like heavy wood settling. I glanced over. The chair was just sitting there, deep in the shadows. I told myself it was just the house, the change in temperature. When I came into the office the next morning with my coffee, I stopped. The chair wasn't in the corner. It was pulled up to my desk, angled perfectly toward the monitor, as if someone had been sitting there. My heart did a painful little jump. I had been home alone. Anna wasn't back yet. I must have done it. I must have moved it myself yesterday and forgotten. I was tired, stressed. My memory was clearly shot. I felt a weird flash of anger at the chair itself. I grabbed its arms and dragged it back, scraping it loudly against the hardwood floor. It felt heavier than it looked. A few days passed. I was on a video call with my team. I was trying to focus, but I was aware of my own little video feed in the corner of the screen. In the background, just over my shoulder, the chair was visible, and I swore I saw it move. It was tiny, a slow, fractional rock, back and forth, so small I thought it was a pixelation glitch. I stared at my own image, my blood turning cold. It stopped. My boss's voice cut through. "Paul, you still with us?" I snapped back. "Sorry," connection lagged for a second. As soon as the call ended, I spun around. The chair was perfectly still. I was just seeing things. I was overworked, and the sight of the stupid thing was making me paranoid. I decided, right then, I was taking it to the dump that weekend. I didn't care about the refund anymore. On Friday, I tried to move it. I braced myself, ready to haul it out of the office and down to the garage. I couldn't. I pulled until my arms burned and my back twinged, but it wouldn't budge more than an inch. It felt anchored to the floor. It was absurd. I'm not a weak guy, but it felt like it weighed 500 pounds. I gave up, sweating and furious, and slammed the office door on it. That night, I woke up suddenly. The house was freezing. I was sure I'd heard a noise. Not a creak this time. It was a tapping. A slow, steady tap coming from downstairs, from the office. I lay there, frozen, listening. It sounded, I realized, with a sick lurch, exactly like someone typing on a keyboard, but slowly, deliberately. I told myself it was a branch against the window. I told myself I was dreaming. I didn't move until the sound stopped. The next morning, I went into the office. The chair was back at the desk, and my computer was on. The screen was black, but the small power light was glowing. I hadn't left it on. I never do. I went to wake the monitor. On the screen, a blank document was open. At the top of the page was a single line of text. "I don't like the corner." I backed out of the room. I didn't run. I just moved backward, one step at a time, my eyes locked on the chair. It just sat there, empty, innocent. I closed the door, walked to the kitchen, and was quietly sick in the sink. Anna came home a few hours later. I couldn't explain it. I tried. "Anna, that chair, I think—" She saw the look on my face. She's practical. Paul, you're white as a sheet. You're completely burned out. Take the day off. Let's get rid of the chair together if it's bugging you that much. I nodded, feeling pathetic. It's too heavy, I whispered. She frowned, walked into the office, and put her hands on the chair. What are you talking about? She said, and she easily slid it a few feet across the floor. It's just a chair, Paul. I stared. She moved it. She moved it easily. I felt a dizzying rush of relief, followed by a wave of intense shame. It was me. I was having some kind of breakdown. I was so stressed I was hallucinating, imagining things. She was right. I'm sorry, I said. I'm just really tired. She smiled, a little worried. I know. Let's get it out of here. We carried it together. It still felt heavy to me, but not impossibly so. We put it in the garage, and I immediately felt better, lighter. We went out for dinner. We talked. I felt sane again. We got home late. As I was locking the front door, Anna went to check the mail. That's weird, she called from the porch. What? I said, walking over. Someone left a package. But I don't know. It's not for us. She was pointing at a large brown paper-wrapped object leaning against the house. It was big, chair-shaped. There was no shipping label, no address, just my name, written in thick black marker, P.A.U.L. I didn't want to touch it. Anna, still thinking this was all some weird prank, tore at the paper. Underneath was dark, carved wood. It was the chair. We both just stood there. How? She whispered. We had been gone for 2 hours. We'd carried the other one to the garage. We ran to the garage. The garage was empty. The chair was gone. This is not funny, she said, her voice shaking. Who is doing this? It's not a person, I said. We called the police. They came. They were polite. They listened to our story about a chair that moves. They checked the house. They found no sign of a break-in. They saw the chair on the porch. It's probably just some kid's Halloween prank, one of them said, trying to be reassuring. Just bring it inside or chain it up if you're worried. They left. We didn't bring it inside. We left it on the porch. We locked every door, every window. We sat in the living room in the dark all night. Around 4 a.m. the tapping started. It wasn't in the office. It was coming from the front door. A slow, hard tap against the wood, like someone was knocking, but not with a knuckle, with something harder. It went on for an hour. We just sat there holding hands until it stopped. When the sun came up, I went to the door. I looked through the peephole. The porch was empty. The chair was gone. We sold the house. We moved to an apartment in the city. Anna thinks we were targeted by some incredibly dedicated, bizarre stalker. She thinks we had a lucky escape. I let her believe that. I work in a shared office space now. I don't like working from home. My new therapist is very good. He says I've processed the trauma well. It's been 2 years. And the only thing I can't explain, the only question I still ask myself every single day, is this. If it was a prank, or a stalker, or just all in my head, how did they know my old, unlisted childhood nickname? The text on the computer screen didn't say, I don't like the corner. That's just what I told Anna. That's what I tell my therapist. What it really said was, I missed you, Polly. I'd bought 3 pumpkins from a roadside stand, nice big ones for carving. I set them on the porch steps. It was a crisp October afternoon, and I liked the way they looked. That night I went out to get the mail, and there were 4. I stared at them for a full minute. The new one was smaller, lumpier, and a paler orange than the others. It sat slightly apart from the trio I'd purchased. My first thought was that my wife, Sarah, had bought an extra as a surprise, but she was out of town visiting her sister. I brought the mail inside, my eyes lingering on the porch through the front window. Maybe I'd miscounted. I'd been busy, distracted with work. Yes, that had to be it. I'd simply forgotten buying the fourth one. I decided to accept that because the alternative, that someone had come onto my porch and left a pumpkin, was just too strange, and I didn't need that kind of strange. The next day, the fourth pumpkin was gone. Not smashed, not stolen, just gone. The three I'd bought were right where I left them. No pulp, no stem, nothing. It was as if it had never existed. I stood on the porch, the cold morning air biting my cheeks, and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. This wasn't forgetfulness, this was wrong. I called Sarah. "Hey, did you maybe stop by last night? Leave an extra pumpkin on the porch?" She laughed. "Why would I do that? I'm 3 states away. Are you losing it over there without me?" I forced a laugh. "Yeah, must be. Just tired." I tried to put it out of my mind. It was just a pumpkin, a bizarre appearing and disappearing pumpkin. It didn't mean anything. 2 days later, I was taking out the trash. The bin is kept at the side of the house behind a tall gate. As I swung the gate open, I saw it. A child's handprint smeared in dark mud on the white-painted fence. It was small, maybe a 5-year-old's. My blood went thick and slow. We don't have children. Our neighbors' kids are older, teenagers who wouldn't be playing in the mud. I grabbed a hose and washed it off, my hands shaking. The mud was slick and cold. I told myself a kid from down the street must have wandered into my yard. It happens. But the gate was latched. I always keep it latched. The fear was no longer a flicker. It was now a steady pilot light, constantly burning. The real trouble started that weekend. I was watching a movie late at night, the house dark and silent, when a soft, rhythmic sound began from the kitchen, like someone slowly dragging a fingernail across the countertop. My heart hammered against my ribs. I sat frozen on the couch, straining to hear. "Hello?" I called out, my voice embarrassingly thin. The sound stopped. I waited a full 5 minutes, my ears ringing in the silence. Then I grabbed the heavy flashlight from the side table and crept into the kitchen. I flicked on the light. Nothing. The countertops were clean and empty. The back door was locked, the curtains drawn. I checked the whole house, every closet, under every bed. It was empty. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, the flashlight gripped in my hand like a club. The next evening, I was trying to read, jumping at every creak of the old house. The doorbell rang, a sharp, normal sound that made me yelp. I looked through the peephole. No one was there. I opened the door, the chilly evening air washing over me. The porch was empty. And then I looked down. On the welcome mat was a small, mud-stained teddy bear. One of its button eyes was missing. It wasn't just dirty, it was damp, as if it had been left out in the rain. This wasn't a prank. This was a message. Whatever it was showing me it knew where I lived. It was leaving things for me. I kicked the bear off the mat and slammed the door, locking and bolting it. I called the police. The officer who came was polite, patient. He took notes as I spilled everything. The pumpkin, the handprint, the scraping, the bear. I heard how it sounded as I said it, pathetic, unhinged. "Any problems with the neighbors? Teenagers causing trouble?" he asked. "No, nothing like that." "Any history of sleepwalking, sir? Or high stress levels?" He clearly thought I was doing it to myself. He finished his notes, told me he'd drive around the block, and left. I felt utterly, completely alone. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I'd pushed a dresser in front of the bedroom door. I know how that sounds. I was just drifting into a fitful sleep when I heard it. A whisper. It came from the other side of the dresser, right at the crack under the door. It wasn't a word at first, just a soft, shushing exhalation of air. But it was intelligent. It was a sound made to be heard. I stopped breathing. Then it came again, closer, as if whatever it was had pressed its mouth to the door. This time, it formed a word, my name. It wasn't a scary movie voice, it was just a whisper, faint and dry, like leaves skittering on pavement. It knew my name. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I just lay there, paralyzed, until the first gray light of dawn filtered through the blinds. When I finally found the courage to shove the dresser aside and open the door, the hallway was empty. I broke then. I packed a bag and went to a hotel. I stayed there for 3 days, telling work I had the flu. I felt like a coward, but the terror was a physical thing, a weight in my stomach. On the 4th day, I had to go back. The mail was piling up. I pulled into the driveway, my hands slick on the wheel. The house looked normal, quiet. The 3 pumpkins were still on the steps, now a little weathered. I walked up to the front door, key held out like a weapon. Nothing happened. I went inside. The house was still. I did a full sweep. Everything was in its place. No mud, no toys, no whispers. It was over. A profound, weary relief flooded me. It had passed. Whatever it was gone. I decided to clean up the porch to get things back to normal. I picked up the 3 pumpkins, carrying them to the trash bin. As I lifted the last one, I saw it. There, on the gray-painted wood of the porch step where the pumpkin had been sitting, was a small, clean, dry circle. And in the center of that circle was a single, perfect child's handprint. It wasn't made of mud, it wasn't wet, it was just there, as if the wood itself had remembered the shape. I didn't scream, I didn't run, I just stood there staring at it. The relief I'd felt curdled into something worse, a deep, chilling certainty. It hadn't left. It had found a way to stay. And I knew, with a clarity that froze my soul, that it had never been about getting in. It was about making me understand that it was already here. The real question wasn't what it wanted. The real question was, what had I been locking out, and what had I been locking in with me?